Haribol, Namaste. My name is Janapati Das, and please accept my respects, everyone. Please accept my most humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada, and please accept my respectful obeisances, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are going to be giving a Srimad Bhagavatam. I did a Bhagavad Gita class earlier, so Srimad Bhagavatam class today. We are reading from the first canto, first chapter, 5th verse, and as always, as instructed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will chant Krishna's names. And so please join along. Namo Siraswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Sarupaya Radha Krishna Pristayate Namo Siraswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we will continue. Sorry, I'm so into completing the Bhagavad Gita that this Srimad Bhagavatam is so, it's like you could just like literally talk about one verse alone at a time. So I feel like I don't want to rush through I don't really want to rush through anything, but we were reading from the first chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, translated and purported upon by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And it's entitled Question by the Sages. We've just entered into the beginning of this sacrifice that is being held by the sages of Naimisharanya. And we'd read, I'll read it again, the verse previously, once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya. Naimisharanya is actually in the Kurukshetra district, actually in the same location where the great battle took place of the Kurukshetra battle. So actually a holy space. There's many wonderful things have happened in that location. Great sages headed by the sage Shaunaka assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. So we had stated the fact that all sacrifices, another name of Sri Krishna is yajna. Yajna means sacrifice, but it's a capital Y, so because Krishna is the recipient of all sacrifices. The purpose of all sacrifices in the spiritual sense, the Vedic sacrifices and whatnot, is to come to know Krishna and to have this loving relationship with Krishna. Reinstate, I should say, because we have an eternal relationship with Krishna already. So text 5, ta ekada tu munyaha prata huta naya satkritam sutam ashinam prapachur idam adarat te, the sages, ekada, one day, tu, but, munayaha, sages, prata, morning, huta, burning, huta agnya, the sacrificial fire, sat kritam, due respects, satam, Sri Sutta Goswami, ashinam, sitadan, prachuhu, made inquiries, idam, on this as follows, adalat, with due respects. So you'll please forgive me. I'm not a perfect Sanskrit scholar or anything like that, so, but I want to be pleasing to my spiritual master, and so you can hear the Sanskrit. I may not be pronouncing it wrong, but my intentions are good, so, and it's such a beautiful, I can like to keep practicing on it, so I can, I've heard people sing it, and, this is the way that Sanskrit is supposed to be pronounced, is actually in a singing way. So, translation, text 5. One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sutta Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters. And I don't think we read this one already, but okay. But if I did, we'll read it again. So Sutta Goswami, as you remember from the Krishna book, it was the son of Ramashan. And there was a story where Balaram was on pilgrimage in the Krishna book, in the Srimad Bhagavatam actually. But in the Krishna book, we read this story. And Balaram came into this area where Sutta Goswami was, Ramashan and the sages were seated, and everyone knew who Balaram was, so they immediately got up from their seats to offer respects to Balaram. But on the Vyasasan was Romershan, and Romershan was a disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. But he did not offer due respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Balaram. And then, of course, Balaram killed him, and there was, a lot of more to that story, but you can go back to the Krishna book if you want and watch that. It's towards the end of the Krishna book. But what Balaram ended up doing was installing, because he knew, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure devotion that his son, Shuta Goswami, was. So he gave him the position of being the head spiritual master in the place of his father. Morning is the best time to hold spiritual services. So I just want to, after they're finishing their morning duties, the morning time is a time right after our sleep. We get up, we take a bath, everything. We haven't been through the day, we haven't looked at our phone, we haven't looked at emails, we haven't interacted with people. It's still a very fresh, and it's an auspicious time in the morning, especially very early, the Brahma Murta hour, which is like 4:30 on. And it's an auspicious time ideal time to be doing your japa and your chanting and all those kinds of things. So when you do go to retreats, the morning time and time where you do your solitude japa, and solitude japa is done with no distractions, right? The great sages offered the speaker of the Bhagavatam an elevated seat of respect called the Vyasasan, or the seat of Vyasadeva, Sri Vyasadeva. So you see asana. Asana is like, we think, asana is, it's yoga, right? Asana actually means seating, and it was positions. There were positions that were held in the Hatha yoga position, but asana also means seat. And Vyasa, so the Vyasasan is the seat of Vyasadeva. In other words, the spiritual master is representing when they sit on the Vyasasan, they're representing Sri Vyasadeva. And Romershan was not really representing his spiritual master Vyasadeva very accurately by not offering respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the purpose of being a spiritual master is to understand and to have the vision that you are, what you received from your spiritual master is non-different than what Krishna was giving to Arjuna, for example, or Krishna gives. It is Krishna, really, and the spiritual master is Krishna, an expansion of Krishna. So Srila Vyasadeva is the original spiritual preceptor for all men, and all other preceptors are considered to be his representatives. A representative is one who can exactly present the viewpoint of Sri Vyasadeva. Sri Vyasadeva impregnated the message of Bhagavatam unto Srila Shukadeva Goswami, and Srila Shuta Goswami heard it from him, Sri Shukadeva Goswami. So that's interesting. I thought maybe Shuta Goswami was also, his spiritual master was Srila Vyasadeva, but actually his spiritual master was Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Very impressive. All bona fide representatives of Sri Vyasadeva in the chain of disciplic succession are to be understood as to be Goswamis. Swami means master, right? Master. And Go means senses. So Goswami is the master of the senses. Their senses are dovetailed to Krishna's service, not to any kind of external material desires or whatever. That is Godas. Das are the servant of the senses. These Goswamis restrain all their senses and they stick to the path made by the previous acharyas. Which is acharya is also, you think of acharya like a teacher, right? But actually it means a teacher who a teacher by example. So in other words, they are teaching how they learned from their teacher, and their teacher learned from their teacher. So all spiritual masters are Goswamis, but they're also acharyas. They set by previous examples. And it's not anything that they make up. Rather, they receive the information and they give the information like handing down a mango perfectly from one branch to another. The Goswamis do not deliver lectures on the Bhagavatam capriciously. Rather, they execute their services most carefully, following their predecessors who delivered the spiritual message unbroken to them. Those who listen to the Bhagavatam may put questions to the speaker in order to elicit the clearer meaning, but this should not be done in a challenging spirit. So that is a really wonderful statement by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, because when you are approaching your spiritual master, you should inquire from him submissively and render service unto them, because a self-realized soul can impart knowledge because they have seen the truth, right? But many times people don't want to, they come to an area where they're a spiritual master and they may feel very puffed up and have false ego and think that they know better, and so they challenge, they're not listening, they're not receiving. And here it's saying, you can ask questions, and that's what Arjuna was doing. Yet Arjuna made his point in the beginning, like this is what I think, and then he was like, then he started to ask questions, very intelligent questions for clarity. So it's not like, okay, I want, maybe there's a doubt, or even that's okay, but there's a difference between having a doubt and wanting clarity from it, and having a doubt and wanting to change the spiritual master's opinion because you feel like you're already right. So why are you there in the first place, other than your false ego? Just I can prove this guy's a guru and I've just proved him completely wrong, that kind of thing. So I love that. In order to elicit the clear meaning, and the clear meaning, to receive the absolute truth, rendering service humbly, listening, receptive to the spiritual master, without envy, just like Krishna was telling Arjuna earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, that because you are not envious of me, I can impart this knowledge unto you, which will bring you great joy. Because you are receptive, you're listening, you're considering it, you're deliberating upon it, and applying it in your life, right? So that's different than, that's, this is not a debate. It's not like a social media, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-ICE, anti-ICE, whatever it might be, pro-war, anti-war. This is your spiritual life. So you should inquire submissively, and even when you are searching for a spiritual master, you can inquire submissively, but you should also use your intelligence. Consider what they're saying. Does it match the scriptures? Does it match what I'm feeling in my heart, with the Lord in my heart? Is it consistent? One must submit questions with a great regard for the speaker and the subject matter. This is also the way recommended in Bhagavad Gita. So generally, people who really they really want to have it. I think many sort of like patterns that I've seen, not only in my stories, my personal story of coming to meditation, but other people who've come to Srila Prabhupada, and they really, really wanted to know, and they had asked other gurus and read other books similarly to myself that just there was not a clarity, and there was sincerity to want to know and listening and considering, but then there was that was not the right way to go, This is also the way recommended in Bhagavad Gita. One must learn the transcendental subject by submissive oral reception from the right sources. Therefore, these sages addressed the speaker, Sutta Goswami, with great respect. So, yeah, because the sages there, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see this kind of representatives. And the disciples could be spiritual masters in their own right. They're just highly elevated, pure devotees, approaching other highly elevated, pure devotees, but surrendering, listening submissively, and not challenging. So, therefore, they can hear properly. It's wonderful. Text 6. Lasha chuhu tavaya kalu puranani seti hashani chanagna akyatani api adhitani dharma shastrani aniula rashaha. The sages, Achua, said, Tavaya, by you, Kalu, undoubtedly, Puranani, the supplements to the Vedas with illustrative narrations, Sa iti hasani, along with the histories, Cha and Anga, freed from all vices, Akyantani explained, Api, although, Adhitani, well read, Dharma Shastrani, scriptures giving right directions to progressive life. Yani, all these. Uta said. The sages said, Respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in all the scriptures famous for religious life, and in the Puranas and the histories as well, for you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them. Purport: a Goswami or a bona fide representative of Sri Vyasadeva must be free from all kinds of vices. The four major vices of Kali Yuga are: number 1, illicit connection with women; number 2, animal slaughter; number 3, intoxication; number 4, speculative gambling of all sorts. So when you become a disciple, actually even before you're instructed to follow the 4 regulative principles, and these are illicit sexual activity, eating meat, fish, or eggs, or any kind of animal slaughter, intoxication, freedom from drugs, alcohol, any kind of intoxicants, and gambling of any sort, and that could be quite a wide variety of things too. Not because these things are in of themselves spiritual, but because they inhibit spiritual progress. When you're thinking about sexual activity and you're walking down the street and it's just like, and it's hard because a lot of women have just dressed this way, and so as a man, you just like walking down and there's, whatever, and your mind starts, this is how, oh gosh, what am I feeling? I forget his name. Anyway, I can't remember it with this always happens to me. Okay, yeah. Anyway, the character, the personality, he was a Brahmin, and when he was a young Brahmin, young brahmachari, he saw a prostitute engaging in sexual activity in the forest, and then he became agitated by it, and that just happened. I don't want to spend so much time, but it's like it's right on the tip of my tongue, the name of it, the name of the person. Ajamila, that's it. Woo! I knew it was floating around in there. Ajamila, right? The one in where you almost got taken away by Yamadutes. And anyway, but that was very simple looking with the eyes at an activity. And that just agitated his mind until he had to act on that. And of course, it all went downhill from there. But he ended it all's well that ends well. So he got saved by chanting the name of Krishna. Goswami must be free from all these vices before he can dare sit on the Vyasasan. No one should be allowed to sit on the Vyasasan who is not spotless in character and who is not freed from the above-mentioned vices. He not only should be freed from all such vices, but must also be well-versed in all revealed scriptures or in the Vedas. The Puranas are also parts of the Vedas, and histories like the Mahabharata or Ramayana are also parts of the Vedas. The Acharya, or the Goswami, must be well acquainted with all these literatures. To hear and explain them is more important than reading them. To hear and explain them is more important than reading them, or hearing, repeating, right? One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. Hearing is called the Shravana, and explaining is called Kirtana. Shravana, Kirtanam, Smaranam, remembering, right? The two processes of Shravanam and Kirtana are of primary importance in progressive spiritual life. Only one who has properly grasped the transcendental knowledge from the right source by submissive hearing can properly explain the subject. Text 7. Yani Veda Vidam Shresto Bhagavan Badarla Yana Anye Cha Munaya Sutta Paravara Vido Viju. Yani, all that. Veda Vidam, scholars of the Vedas. Shreshtaha, senior most. Bhagavan, incarnation of Godhead. Badarayana Vyasadeva, Ane, others. Cha and Munaya, the sages. Sutta, O Sutta Goswami. Paravara Vidya, amongst the learned scholars, one who is conversant with physical and metaphysical knowledge. Vidu, one who knows. Translation, text 7. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentation on the Brahma Sutra or the Badarayani Vedanta Sutras. It is called natural because Vyasadeva is the author of both the Vedanta Sutras and Srimad Bhagavatam, or the essence of all Vedic literatures. Besides Vyasadeva, there are other sages who are the authors of 6 different philosophical systems, namely Gautama, Kanada Kapila, Patanjali, Jaimini, and Ashtavakra. Theism is explained completely in the Vedanta Sutra, where in other systems of philosophical speculations, practically no mention is given to the ultimate cause of all causes. One can sit on the Vyasasan only after being conversant in all systems of philosophy, so that one can present fully the theistic views of the Bhagavatam in defiance of all other systems. Srila Shuta Goswami was the proper teacher, and therefore the sages of Naimisharanya elevated him to the Vyasasan. Srila Vyasadeva is designated herein as the personality of Godhead because he is the authorized, empowered incarnation. Text 8. Veta tavam samya tat savam tatvatas tad anugrahi bruhoshni yasha shishasha Guravo Goyam Apiuta Veta, you are well conversant. Tvam, your honor. Shamya, one who is pure and simple. Tat, those. Savyam, all. Tatvata, tatvata, in fact. Tat, there. Anugrahat, by the favor of. Bruhu, will tell. Sniyasha, one who is submissive. Shishasha, of the disciple. Gurava, of the spiritual masters. Guyam, secret. Api, uta, endowed with. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Purport. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master. Let me read that again, because that is key. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. One should make it their life's mission to be pleasing to their spiritual master. And how does one become pleasing? Well, our spiritual masters are constantly instructing us things to do. You know, maybe we don't even have, maybe we haven't received something very specific, like, you know, some kind of service specific, but we've been given all kinds of things. Chant Krishna's names, practice solitude, chant your japa, read scripture. I mean, so many different things in the lectures in our lectures of our spiritual masters. But chanting Krishna's names is very pleasing makes the spiritual master very happy. It makes Krishna very happy. Srila Vishwananta Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on the spiritual master as follows. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the personality of Godhead, and when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the path of spiritual realization. Wow, I'm going to read that again. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the personality of Godhead, and when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the path of spiritual realization. So if you're having havoc, and you need to check back and think, what have I done, to be displeasing? It is essential, therefore, that a disciple be very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Sutta Goswami fulfilled all these qualifications as a disciple, and therefore he was endowed with all favors by his learned and self-realized spiritual masters such as Srila Vyasadeva and others. The sages of Naimisharanya were confident that Srila Sutta Goswami was bona fide, therefore they were anxious to hear from him. Yeah, if one who knows a bona fide spiritual master should be anxious to hear from them, because it's just like nectar. It's like hearing from Krishna. It's none different. Okay, text 9. Tatra tatranjasya yushman bhavata yadvini chitam pumsam ekantata shreyas tannaha samshitam arhasi tatra thereof anjasa made easy, Ayushman blessed with a long duration of life, Bhavata by your good self, Yat whatever, Vinichtitam ascertained, Pumsam for the people in general, Ekantaha ta absolutely, Shreya ultimate good, Tat that, Na to us, Shamshitum to explain, Arhashi deserve. Therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. In Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharya is recommended. The Acharya and Goswamis are always absorbed in thought of the well-being of the general public, especially their spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. The Acharyas therefore give directions in spiritual well-being for people in general, foreseeing the incompetency of the people in this age of Kali, or the Iron Age of Quarrel. The sages requested that Shuta Goswami give a summary of all revealed scriptures, because the people of this age are condemned in every respect. The sages therefore inquired of the absolute good, which is the ultimate good for the people. The condemned state of affairs of the people of this age is described as follows. Okay. All right, we got one. We'll read one more. It's a bigger purport. Text 10. Prayen alpa yushyaha shabha kalvashmin yugeg janaha mandaha sumanda matayo manda bhagya hiyopadrutaha playena, almost always, alpa, meager, anusha, duration of life, shabya, member of a learned society, kalao, in this age of Kali, quarrel, ashmin, herein, yuge, age, janaha, the public, manda, lazy, sumanda, mataha, misguided, manda bhagyaha, unlucky, he, and above all, upadrutaha, disturbed. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Sound familiar? You just open up your social media. Just look at your reels. This iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. Their lives are shorter than they used to be. They are quarrelsome. They're fighting constantly. Lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Always disturbed. Just constantly. They're just being agitated. There's no rest. The devotees of the Lord are always anxious for the spiritual improvement of the general public. So the devotees of Krishna, they look to the people of Kali Yuga as being those, as Srila Prabhupada would say in his lecture, that Lord Chaitanya came to save those who were the most fallen, most degraded, most poor in spirit, and he gave them the process of chanting Krishna's names, which is the greatest richness that one could have. Love for God. Distributed prema freely. And so the devotees of Krishna, it's not like when we read this and we laugh about it because we know it. We know it's very true what they're saying here. But in truth, the devotee of Krishna feels great pain and compassion for the living entities at large because they're everywhere. Doesn't mean that the person who's out on the street homeless that I gave food to the other day, some prasadam, shaking from hunger, or the person that lives in Lanikai in a $4 million house with lots of money and a Jaguar is any different spiritually. They can, in the sense that they are all poor in spirit. Sometimes the most materially wealthy people have been the most miserable. So there is a great compassion and a need for the devotees to give people Krishna, to give them this knowledge, this torchlight of knowledge of the absolute truth to people so they can be joyful and happy. Just as we have received the torchlight of knowledge from our spiritual master, the chanting of Krishna's names, and we are so grateful and we have such gratitude for receiving such a priceless gift that we can't, to just keep it up in a bottle is miserly. It's like you want to, just like Lord Chaitanya, plundering the storehouse of devotion to God and distributing it freely. I mean, Krishna was, even Krishna he ate the ghee and the butter and whatnot, but he was giving it to monkeys and to his friends, and so we should do the same thing. We should not be so afraid. There are people who will reject it, but many people will not. Or you can do other kind of ways of giving people prasadam. If they don't want to hear the chanting of Krishna's names, you offered them food that's been offered to the Lord, or maha that's been offered to the Lord, and they're benefited. When the sages of Naimisharanya analyzed the state of affairs of the people in this age of Kali, they foresaw that men would live short lives in Kali Yuga. The duration of life is shortened not so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. And because we have a sufficient amount of food in the West, there's no regulation, we have the freedom. You don't have to consistently do the same thing over and over again for survival. You can actually, sort of, it's good, but it's also not good. It's also made us very soft. That is to say, I was going to read one, okay. Overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy. Okay, but by keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. It's true. You eat very simply. You eat to live, not live to eat, right? But we live in a very obese, the United States and Australia have extremely high obesity rates, and not to mention overweight rates or higher. We have heart disease, we have diabetes, we have so many problems, health problems, because of our, as Bhaktivedanta would say, that most diseases of the modern age are from overindulging in the senses, whether that be sexual. In the 80s we had AIDS, we have sexual transmitted diseases because people can't keep their dicks in their pants, So it's like, and then overeating. So you can live very simply, live simply, take care of your body, use your body like it is a temple, and you should be using it in the service of Krishna. We can't do that if it's like overweight and falling apart. So sometimes people will think like, oh, well, I'm not the body, right? So I can just do whatever I want with the body. No, your body is not your body. It's been given to you by Krishna, and you can take care of it. You should take care of it. Srila Prabhupada has said that people should take care of their bodies so they can use it as long as they can in the service of the Gurudev and Krishna. So, overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy, on an artificial standard of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. The people of this age are also very lazy, not only materially, but in the matter of self-realization. Yeah, well, materially, definitely. Every age feels like they need to get a handout from people. They feel like people should just the government should take care of you completely, 150%. They should give you everything. They should give you money. They should give you this and that, and you shouldn't have to do anything. But the government will take care of you, and you just give them all your money, basically. Give them all money and taxes, right? So anyway, that's that. But the main point is that in the matter of self-realization, Lord Chaitanya came in this age to give us a very simple and enjoyable process. But even then, people are very lazy to engage in inquiring about who they are and what their purpose of their life is. They're too busy trying to overeat, overindulge in sense gratification. The human life is especially meant for self-realization. That is to say, man should come to know what he is, what the world is, and what the supreme truth is. Human life is a means by which the living entity can end all miseries of the hard struggle of life for life in the material existence, and by which he can return to God at the eternal home. But due to a bad system of education, men have no desire for self-realization. Even if they come to know about it, they unfortunately become victims of misguided teachers. Yeah, and so nobody is really doing that. Nobody is engaging. Nobody is really, I mean, it makes things a lot easier to know who you are, what your purpose is, and then you don't have to feel like, because your mind is going to constantly provide new things, no new excitements, new, oh, that didn't really satisfy you. I told you, why are you stupid and take that? Even though Maya Devi is telling you to do it that way. Just do it, do it. You do it, and it doesn't bring you any happiness, and then the mind comes up, Maya Devi brings many, many, many more things. So that could go on forever and ever and ever, and you just spend your whole life chasing after mirages, one after another, instead of just knowing, well, wait a minute, hold on, okay. Krishna. My purpose of my life is to know who I am as Aham Brahmasmi. I am spiritual in essence. I can take care of my body, I can eat, I can enjoy these things, but I can dovetail all my will and everything, all my food, offer my food to Krishna, dovetail my life to Krishna, offer everything to Krishna, your time, and that just makes things very simple and very easy. And that is being your natural state is a very enjoyable and fun and lighthearted way to live. In this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also of many different types of sense gratificatory diversions, such as cinema, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad associations, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so on. Watching Super Bowl Bad Bunny, it's like, just everything. Sexual activities, so many distractions. Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxieties due to so many different engagements. And now we have our phone and we go on to social media. It's just like one swiping and doom scrolling down one after another, trying to find that, watch that, oh, that's pretty funny, let me share that, poof, poof. And you're like, before you know, you've like spent 2 hours. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I can't really say that I'm perfect either, because when you get into that, then you find yourself like doom scrolling. I actually read a study today that said that if you blocked your internet and didn't look at they found that a study that 91% of people who blocked their internet for 2 weeks and didn't do any social media found an increase of happiness, less anxiety, and more productivity. Because you're not like, oh, that's funny. Hey, did you see that meme? It's like sharing memes and stuff like that. And you're like, are you reading something? Then you're reading the comments and you're getting angry. It's just like so much energy, so much of your time, you wasted time. And this is your life. This is your life. You want to gauge your life in just doom scrolling, engaging in all these diversions, and before you know it, you're like 80, and you're like, what have you done to bring your realization of who you are and your relationship with Krishna to a higher level? Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxieties due to so many different engagements. In this age, many unscrupulous men manufacture their own religious faiths which are not based on any revealed scriptures, and are often people who are addicted to sense gratification, are attracted by such institutions. And then once again in social media, and that's a whole nother class, really, because people come up, they see an opportunity to manipulate people, so they put their Play-Doh together of their kind of mishmash of spiritual depths. They read this book, they read that book, they've read this book, and they've taken these yoga workshops, and and then they get people on them, and you give little reels and stuff about spiritual insights, and people like it, and then they pull you in, and hey, you want to know more about how you can live a more spiritual life? Pay $5,000 and come to our retreat in the Bali. It's before you know it, they're like the guru, but they're just ripping you off left and right. The devotee of Krishna doesn't ask for any money. He doesn't charge you for meditation. The pure devotee of Krishna gives, just like Lord Chaitanya, the love for God freely, prema freely. Here, chant Krishna's names. Just because, in truth, the devotee of Krishna has a heart of Krishna. Krishna is in his heart, and he is in Krishna's heart. And all he wishes is for them to know about Krishna, so they'll be happy, and they can go back to Krishna, because then that would make Krishna happy, and then they would be happy. So it's a wonderful festival of love. And Festival of Love is completely opposite of what's going on in this purport and what they're talking about, which is a festival of lust and anger and manipulation. So this manufacturing of religious faith. Consequently, in the name of religion, so many sinful acts are being carried on that people in general have neither peace of mind nor health of body. The student brahmachari communities are no longer being maintained. The householders do not observe rules and regulations of the Grihastha ashram. Consequently, the so-called vanaprashta and sannyasis who come out of such Grihastha ashrams are easily deviated from the rigid path. So originally, the varnashram system was set up in a way that even if a person was not a pure devotee, they had rules and regulations that they followed with the understanding of living a moral and righteous life. But this is Kali Yuga. So in the Kali Yuga, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with faithlessness. It was just true, Religion is on its way down. The only time that religion kind of pops up again is when you have a major catastrophe like war or a terrorist attack. People go to church because they're afraid and they need to pray to God and have some kind of solace. Or an economic crash and they're like, I have no money, I'm poor, I'm living on the streets. Let me go pray to God for money. And then when they get some money, then they're like out of the church. It's like, and so then we have a young generation of atheists and communists who are trying to relegate religion to antiquated mythology that is unnecessary. Even I had this conversation with my younger brother once about that. He said, well, we don't really need this anymore, this system. I said, no, that's not true at all, because and so that was the debate I had with him about that. Men are no longer interested because, ultimately, if you're going to get rid of religion, there will be something else. There will be, and we've seen it happen in Soviet Union and China. Communism becomes the new religion. Atheism, the state becomes God. The pigs stand up and drink alcohol in the end. Men are no longer interested. I'm quoting Animal Farm, by the way, if you don't know what that is, by George Orwell. Men are no longer interested in spiritual values. Material sense gratification is now the standard of civilization. For the maintenance of such material civilization, man has formed complex nations and communities, and there is a constant strain of hot and cold wars between these different groups. It has become very difficult, therefore, to raise the spiritual standard due to the present distorted values of human society. The sages of Naimisharanya are anxious to disentangle all fallen souls, and here they are seeking the remedy from Srila Sutta Goswami. And I think we'll probably wrap that up, because that was a wonderful 5 or 6 verses. Thank you very much.